Good morning or afternoon or evening, whenever you're listening to this. I am sadly coming to you without Reverend Dr. Shawn Moore today. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it to this recording, so hopefully we'll have another recording coming up soon. But the last time we talked about doing an episode on basically we're titling this When the Healer Needs to Heal. So I'm going to give you some of my experience, some of counseling's best suggestions for when the healer needs to heal, but more specifically for what works well in these situations. And I am sharing my personal experience. I'm a little uncomfortable with using healer. It feels really prideful for me to say I am a healer, even though I am part of the industry that is the healing professions. So there you can see where some of my work needs to happen. And over the coming months and years, I may bring to you the work I do and coming to grips with being able to call myself a healer like the rest of the field does. So we all have stuff to work on, and clearly that's one of mine. I'm going to be talking to you about depression today. I never checked in with my therapist to see if he actually diagnosed me with depression. So I'm referring to myself as having been in a depressive state because I never asked him if he gave me the official diagnosis, and we don't diagnose ourselves. So therefore, to be ethically correct and legally correct, I am saying depressive state. However, I'm going to be describing depression. So if you are struggling with depression, these are some things that may help you. I'm going to go through the list of things I did while in this extended state and talk through with you how to implement those using my personal experience. So let me tell you the story. About April of last year, I hit a really low period. I'd accomplished something big. I was moving into something hard, and my whole being took a dive. And I think you guys can probably resonate with that. Those of you that struggle with depression, is your whole being just wants to curl up and disappear. And that's where I was, of just having difficulty feeling like I was a part of my own life. This lasted through January, February of the following year. And so for a while, I was stuck in it, and I couldn't even see that it was depression necessarily, or a depressive state. I promised you I wouldn't diagnose myself. For I just knew I was struggling, and I didn't know why, I didn't know how. And towards the middle of December, maybe beginning of December, it really got to be where it was just really intense. And it was difficult to plan anything. It was difficult to carry out plans. It was difficult to imagine why I would make plans. And then come January, I said, all right, now I recognize this. Sometimes it's hard to personalize the things you're saying to your clients. And so it took me that many months to personalize the things that I was talking about with my clients. And in January, I said, okay, enough is enough. I'm going to do what it takes to get over this. And so now I would really like to share with you some of the things I did. And I'm going to break it down into 3 categories. Category 1 is physical, taking care of the physical. Category 2 is emotional, things you can do emotionally to feel better, things I did, things that our industry recognized, things that friends may have suggested. I'm going to just lump it all into the emotional category. And then interpersonal. All 3 of these combined are really important for making a difference and helping you pull out of depression. I also want to put in a little disclaimer here or caveat of I'm listing out to you everything I did over that entire period, from April until January, February, and continue to do to this day. What I want you to understand is that it might feel like, okay, I've got to do all of this all at once, and otherwise I won't feel any better. My encouragement would be to pick one thing and do that for a couple of days and then add in another thing. Or if that feels too much, pick one thing and then add another one in a week later or a week and a half later. The other important thing is you're not going to feel like doing any of it. And that's an important thing to realize with depression is oftentimes the way out of depression is doing the opposite of what you feel. Now, obviously, if doing the opposite of what you feel would put you in danger, that is not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is if you feel like sleeping and laying in bed for another hour, you probably your better bet is probably to get up and do something little that gives you a very, very small sense of accomplishment. So if you feel like sleeping in bed for another hour, get up and take a shower. Get up, wash your hands. Get up, go to the bathroom. Something small that says, I did this, and you have a check mark for your day. It's that actively working against the tendency to curl in, hide, and rest. That is often really, really necessary for pulling out of the depressive state. In the end, I'm going to give you a list of some things that I did not do that would have been really helpful through that period. And so some of you will be like, duh, which is good. Then that's probably means you're already doing it. And so maybe you will have a quicker recovery than I did. For those of you who have longer standing depression, depression that lasts over years and years and years and years, these techniques still help. It just takes longer to see the benefit. It takes longer to build the momentum. The important part is sticking to the changes you're making and building on those. It's very important to see the momentum building, and you won't see it at first, but you'll get there. I promise you, you do get there as you make slow, minute changes. Okay, let's dive into the physical. Okay, what did I do for myself physically? I amped up nutrition. Okay, what do I mean by amping up nutrition? I started taking vitamin D. I live in Washington, and we get almost no vitamin D naturally through the sun for about at least 6 months of the year, sometimes more. There's a lot of other places in the world where you're bundled up so much, all that sees the sun is this part of your face, and that wouldn't give you enough vitamin D either. So you can talk to your doctor to find out how much vitamin D you should be taking. You can talk to a nutritional consultant. You can talk to any medical professional would probably be able to help you as far as if within their field. The the vitamin and supplement stores can also really help you a lot. Additionally, some research online will help you a lot. I took immense amounts of vitamin D, very consistently. Vitamin B is another one. That's a mood booster. Helps your body. I'm not really aware of all of the details because I really wasn't paying attention when it was first recommended to me. But again, a doctor can help you. Nutritional consultants probably can. And again, the health stores can help you with that. Multivitamins. That's another one I started taking. Our food is somewhat lacking in nutritional value, just due to so many different things I'm not going to get into right here. It's also very, very difficult for the average US citizen or resident to get the vitamins they need from the food we eat. Again, the food is lacking in nutrients. We don't eat enough vegetables. There's so many things that cause that, but in general, there's a lack of nutritional content in the food we eat. And so amping up the amount of vitamins you get by taking a supplement can be really, really helpful. It helps your body overall begin to function the way it's supposed to. Eat your veggies. This sounds so simple, and also it is one that people really struggle with. The more vegetables you can eat helps your body, both your digestive system function better and also be able to grab more nutrients from what you're eating. Your digestive system is tied to so much, but there's a lot of interesting suggestions coming out that the gut is very, very tied to the emotional state and the mental state. So getting your gut to a place where it is functioning better is going to be a lot more possible eating higher vegetable content, higher nutritional content. Protein. Protein is really important for brain function. Dr. Amen out of the Amen clinics has some really good information about that. Head on over to his site. He's based in Seattle area. And he has lots of good information about what protein does for the brain. Low to no refined carbs is also really helpful. Refined carbs are crackers, cookies, breads, potatoes, the starchy part of the potatoes, rices, the white rice. These tend to make your blood sugar fly up and then drop, and fly up and then drop. And that really affects your emotional state when you experience kind of an upper in a little ways, and then the drop, which is you would sense sort of the lack of energy, lack of motivation, lack of mental clarity. The vegetables and the protein, what they do is they help balance out that climb and dive. Again, Dr. Amen has some good information about that. Dr. Hyman has some good information about that. The important part is get your carbs from vegetables or whole grains. The full oat, which is called a groat, brown rice, the full potato, eating the skins but very little, other things like that, which are really good for helping your body even out, and concentrating on vegetables and proteins over the starchy substances. Exercise. So I realized that the first part of this podcast have been extremely discouraging. And I'm about to heap one more really discouraging thing on you. And so you may be feeling like, oh my gosh, this is too much. I am already barely struggling to get, or very struggling to get out of bed. And you want me to exercise too? Um, what there's an author that I love, and she says, anything you're doing is better. Anything you do is better than what you're doing now. So if you're doing zero exercise, get out, go for a 10-minute walk. If 10 minutes seems too much, do some leg lifts on the floor for 5 minutes. And as you come to a place where you're like, okay, I got this. I can do 5 minutes. Then add a minute. If you can't do 5 minutes at first, start with 1 minute. I think probably even in your worst state, you could probably bring yourself to do 1 minute of exercise, some kind of little exercise, and watch how your body feels after you've done that. I guarantee you that even that 1 minute will make a difference in how you feel and the level of accomplishment and momentum you feel. And you can build on that. So really pay attention. Really pay attention to when you're like, okay, I'm going to force myself to do this. And you do it. What does it feel like? Write it down. You need to have a reminder somewhere of what you did, what you felt, and why you should do it again when you feel like I need to convince myself. And that's the crux of all of this is you are bringing yourself to a place where you're going to force yourself to do what you know is going to help. Now, you may be in a state where you're like, no, I am not sure that this is going to help. So I'm here as a professional saying it's going to help. You don't have to know that in and of yourself right now. You can know it because I told you that, and I'm bringing from the field that says these are some things that you can do that will help over time. Okay, one last thing that I forgot to mention is sleep. When in depression, it's often very difficult to get yourself up, get yourself moving, and you sleep an excessive amount of time. The recommendation is between 7.5 and 9 hours of sleep for an adult. And so if you're getting a lot more than that, you can actually increase the depressive state, the depression, by sleeping longer. So what you want to do is just incrementally back yourself up. And you again, I know I'm doing all the big horrible things right off the bat. And you're probably saying, "Oh my gosh, she is out of touch with reality." And I know that's the way it feels. But all I'm asking is what time you would normally wake up, and drag yourself out of bed, move that up 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And just and again, you're going to be forcing yourself to do what you don't want to do, but you will see benefit as you slowly build these habits and you slowly see momentum and victory. My alarm, when it would go off, I would shut it off or hit snooze or go back to bed or whatever. And so I would give myself permission to do that a little bit and then an end point and be like, okay, now I get up. And it's hard, it's awful, it sucks. And you are literally forcing yourself. Now, other people can help you with this if you want them to help you with this. That would be a way for them to partner with you. But you have to be 100% on board, or at least willing to push yourself to do this. Because if it's external pressure, It's not going to have the same momentum and growth as being internal pressure. Okay, that's for the physical. I've listed off a whole bunch of things to you, and my guess is you can't remember a dang thing I said. So I'm going to put the list of things that I did and probably some other suggestions that come from the field, come from practical suggestions that other clients have done and enjoyed. I'll put them in the notes and you can just read it if you have forgotten what I said. So we're moving on to emotional. Mantras. Mantras are incredibly helpful. They're a way of reminding yourself what is truth, even when you can't see it, you can't feel it, you can't hear it, you can't participate in it. It's a statement that you create that makes it so that you can remind yourself what is truth, what is reality, what is your goal right here, right now, even though you don't feel anything at all, or you feel really terrible. Some of my mantras were, as I'm trying to get out of bed, as I'm trying to get moving, were you won't get where you want to go if you're asleep. Repeating that to myself of, I have a goal that I'm shooting for. And if I don't get out of bed, I will never accomplish that goal. I need to get up right now and go at least do a little bit towards that goal. This is another wave. That's another one of my mantras. Here's the wave. That's an important concept to begin to kind of dwell on and really let it sink into your being of life kind of goes in waves. Now, if you've been depressed for a really long time, several years, several months, it's not going to feel like it's a wave. It's going to feel like you're just plain underwater for the rest of your life. But reality is there are waves. There are waves. Everybody experiences waves where you have a peak and you have a lull and you have a peak and you have a lull of symptoms. And it might be that you don't see any of the reprieve, but start paying attention. You will see even tiny, minute moments where there is a reprieve in the symptoms. Maybe it's during a shower where you feel just ever so slightly better. Maybe it's when you first wake up in the morning. Maybe it's right before you fall asleep. Maybe it's while eating. Maybe you have a favorite food that when you take a bite of that food, there's just a moment of peace. Hang on to those moments, pay attention to those moments, and notice how your waves begin to become more evident. Recognizing where the waves are in your life is really important, because when you're experiencing being bowled over by a wave, you can remind yourself this is just a wave. It's gonna end. It's gonna even out. Another one of my mantras was just do something. And by something, I mean get up, move, do something little. Is it taking out the trash? Is it vacuuming a small area of the house? Is it dusting a piece of furniture? Is it washing a couple dishes? Is it taking a shower? I like the shower a lot. You can tell I've mentioned it many times now. I think the physical stimulation of the hot water and standing and moving is really good for your body. There's a cleansing quality to it. That's sort of a spiritual idea of taking a shower and washing away some of what you don't want to live with. Just do something, whatever it is, one little thing, and that begins to put into your brain, where your brain is having a hard time assimilating this. I accomplished this. I did that. And it might seem really small and insignificant. And you might be tempted to say, man, if that is accomplishment for me, I'm a total true failure. Um, and it's really important to just let yourself have a victory. Like, I don't care if your neighbor can do better than that. I don't care if your son or daughter can accomplish more than that. What I am excited about is that you accomplished something you wouldn't have if you hadn't forced yourself to do it. And that's your step. That's your step from depression towards feeling much better. Okay. Oftentimes I struggled with having an idea of what to do next. I was just so overwhelmed, so paralyzed almost with what to do next. And so I would look at myself, take a big deep breath, look at what needed to happen, and then mentally prioritize. Okay, so the next minute task is this. So if I'm needing to get my kids ready and get them to school, my next task is wake them up. My next task is walk to the kitchen, get coffee, whatever it is, something really little like that, of one little thing. This is what I need to do now. And then I will decide what I need to do next. And so again, you're just building one tiny little victory. Okay, I did that. I woke up the kids. Okay, what's next? Okay, I did that. And that can be one of your mantras. Okay, I did that. Okay, I did that. And it starts to refine the way your brain functions into, okay, I can do that. Okay. All right. Moving on to other emotional stuff. So that was talking about mantras. Now we are talking about doing a little bit of a task every day. So if you have a load of dishes that have just built up, don't put on yourself to do the whole task. It's going to be overwhelming. You're going to feel paralyzed trying to get at it. In fact, I had a whole backup of dishes just the other day. And so I said, all right, fine. I'm going to put water in the sink because I'm doing it by hand. My dishwasher is broken. And I am going to leave the water, even when it gets cold, I'm going to leave it there in the sink. I'm just going to do a couple dishes every couple of hours. So that's what I did. Guess what? I'm done. And much faster than I would have been had I tried to do all of the dishes all at once. They would still be sitting there because that was a big project. So my therapist's suggestion was I had a big pile of papers that needed to be gone through. And I was just so overwhelmed by the paperwork that needed to be handled and gone through. And he said, just do one a day. And I was like, oh, that's going to take forever. And he said, are you doing any now? So the point was, it's not going to get done any faster if I wait for a chance for me to have some sort of momentum to do the whole pile or to do a big chunk of the pile. If I do just one at a time, would take me a couple minutes. And I reasoned out. I was like, oh, well, I guess if I do one a day, it's not really piling up any faster than that. So I would at least keep up with it and most likely get ahead. And so I started doing one paper a day. And of course, there were some days where I'm like, okay, that wasn't much. I can do one more paper. And sure enough, I got caught up. Actually, there's a big pile right now that I need to continue doing the one sheet a day. So I still need to practice what I am sharing with you. Remind yourself of the truth that you don't feel. Now I'm using Truth, which could be a trigger word. What I mean is knowing in yourself what is reality and what is not. And in the beginning, it's really, really hard to recognize that. But I think there's things that you probably can realize about yourself that are true, even though they don't feel true. And write those down. Write them down and give yourself a cheat sheet, because you're not going to feel it. You're not going to see it. You're not going to hear it. But you need to know what you don't know in that moment, or what you can't feel in that moment. And so you read it to yourself. Even out loud is great. Um, Writing it on the mirror, writing it on a piece of paper and reading it to yourself. But in those moments where you're just really struggling to get moving, tell yourself the truth. And so this goes right along with the mantras. Your truth can be your mantra. Just a reality check of, okay, I feel terrible. Life is terrible right now. And this is also true. And I'm moving myself. I'm giving myself momentum to move forward. Okay. Big, big, big important one. If you're not currently in therapy, get in therapy. If you are in therapy, stay in therapy. Be regular. Ask if you can have an extra session a week. There's a really important part of having somebody else trained to speak into your life. If you are unable to access therapy, or there's some religious belief against therapy, there's so many books out there. There's so many podcasts out there. There's so many social media presence that will help you with ideas to move forward. But the important part of therapy is it's you and me sitting across from one another in real personal space. Now, you may be doing it virtually, and that's fine. But we're connecting human to human. Plus, I have some training. Okay. So I can see some of the reality blockers that you've got going on. There's a lot of times when there's depression, it's difficult to see reality. And so creating your mantras and creating your reality statements, your truth statements, is difficult, because you really are having a hard time determining what those mantras should be, what those reality statements are, those truths are. And your therapist can help you figure out what those are, and can help point out places where you're believing something that isn't actually reality. And that's really helpful, because they're an outside perspective speaking into you and your value and your courage that you have to move forward. Okay, last category. And I know I've been going on and on and on, so I just want to remind you, I'm going to put all these in the notes so that you can read back on the suggestions. Interpersonal. Force yourself to get together with friends, even if it's only for an hour, even if it's only for a half hour, even if it's only to call. Force yourself to be in communication and contact and relationship with people. If you don't have friends, if you've lost your friends and your relationships and your family, take a couple of minutes to talk to the grocery store clerk. Say hi, ask how their day is going. Share that you're a little hurting and that it's hard right now. Most people are welcome to have a short conversation, are happy to have a short conversation with real interpersonal relationship. Even in the grocery store clerk, a smile goes a really, really long way towards just saying, I'm here, you're there, and we're together right now. Intentionally creating points of connection, even if it's just with the clerk that you're checking out with. Force yourself to do outings with your kids or with your family. If you have family, it's so easy For me, it was so easy to just put on a movie and sit and watch a movie. It lessened the need for um, creating entertainment or mediating disagreements. But what happens when you force yourself to do things, you're creating connection. And the connection is what helps pull you out of the depression. Again, make an effort to volunteer. The dog shelter, the homeless shelter, food banks, churches, United Way, Salvation Army, just a few of the places that you can volunteer. And what happens when you're stuck in depression, it's a really narrow, closed-in view, and all you can see is the pain and the hurt and the physical discomfort and the tiredness. And when you force yourself to look outside of yourself and volunteer, even if only for a half hour, an hour, a week, or a month, you're opening yourself up from that closed in position to just looking out just a little bit. And it builds a pathway for your brain to begin experiencing something different. Okay. Here's the things I did not do. I did not go see a doctor. I told you were going to have a duh moment. I did not go see a doctor. And it would have been really helpful. We have a lot of experience with this. Plus, doctors can prescribe medication. I know a lot of people have some stigma with medication, and I would just encourage you to talk to your doctor about trying some medication. There's some real benefits to even taking it just for a short time. Of course, you need to follow your doctor's recommendations, and definitely do not get off of meds without doctors monitoring you and approving your plan of getting off, or creating a plan themselves for getting off. Is really important because withdrawal symptoms can be very intense and very harmful. But go and see if you can get on a short-term plan. And what happens is, in addition to all of these things, doing all of these things, the medicine can give you just enough to be able to create the ability to be a little bit stronger in creating some of these habits, these new habits. So the medicine sort of works with your habit change to create momentum that is just astounding and really cool. So I encourage you to go talk to your doctor, even though I didn't. Another thing you can do is join a support group. I've been part of support groups over the years, and but I did not do a depression support group this time. I would highly recommend it. It's incredibly encouraging to be part of a group who gets exactly what you're feeling. And then they have their own suggestions for what worked for them. What did you do in this instance? And you can share back and forth, and you can see you're not alone. You can gain skills that other people have found really helpful, and you support each other towards growth. Okay, so I threw a ton at you. I will list out some things in the notes. Hopefully this has been helpful. If not, maybe a little entertaining. Admittedly, this has been woefully lacking without Shawn's input, and I am really looking forward to when we can record the next one together. All right, we'll talk to you all soon. Bye.